guys, I'm Ethan Murbaum,
And I am Jeff Yu.
and this is Design Tech, and today we talk about technology in the design sphere. I'm a photographer.
I'm a graphic designer, done a couple other stuff in it.
It's very hard to get a job in this field. As a photographer, it's a little easier, but a graphic designer, that was, pretty difficult.
Depends. I mean, again, like you're in the industry where everyone are at different paths, and everyone have done different amount of work and put a different amount of time.
Right, well,
So,
you're good at your job, so I'm led to believe you've actually had your work published in a couple of well-known board games and card games.
yeah. But the thing is, again, like in terms of like graphic design itself too. I mean, there's a lot of graphic designers out there, but there's also a lot of jobs for graphic designer because graphic design is very wide. It's not just I design some logos, but you got web design, you got UI design for apps and mobile games and all that. So yeah, it's not just like one field.
And speaking of graphic design, we've actually are going into the topic of today's discussion is the new MacBook Pro. Now, 90% of graphic design is the artist. The other 10% is what you use. Because pen and paper will get you there, but if you can't scan it digitally, kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean it's a modern world, so everything's got to be digitalized.
Right. And so what just came out is we have here the MacBook Pro. We're going to look at some of the specs and how it compares, and if it's what you need to use nowadays. So let's get started. The 13-inch is, all right, the white elephant in the room is the touch bar. All right, I have to bring up the touch bar before we get into this because that is the big jump here. And here we're going to have a edit in post. We're going to have a clip of what the touch bar looks like. And as you can see, it's alongside the top of the Mac. This is the old 13-inch MacBook Pro. Mm-hmm. And so across the top you have the touch bar. Mm-hmm. And you can use the touch bar for a bunch of cool things, as they've said.
Like they're programmable, right? Like
Yeah,
you can actually determine what functions they do for whichever program you're trying to use.
It is programmable. Mm-hmm. And it's based on the app. So the first party ones I've seen are Final Cut Pro, where you actually have your timeline across the top, which is really cool. So as far as for video editing and photography, being able to go through a timeline for video editing or going through and doing sliders on photography, what kind of aspects would you use that touch bar for?
Well, the first thing that usually comes to mind is like what I would use a radio bar for on a tablet. So usually it'll have all the different functions from like either backspace or not backspace, like undo, because I use that occasionally, and then anything that calls up maybe the brush panel if I'm doing like Photoshop work, if I'm doing digital painting.
So we're talking like slide to adjust the thickness of your brush.
You could do that, yeah. I mean that'd be really nice actually. What else would I do it for? If I was doing like video editing, for example, yeah.
Do it for Harambe.
Yeah, sure. But yeah. But for the for the time slider, yeah, it would be nice to be able to see where you are and then crop it if that's possible. I don't know if that's something you can actually program into
it sounds like it's going to be third-party programmable. So let's go over some of the specs.
I'll have to look into that.
So we have the specs here. Starts at $14.99 for the old non-touch bar version, and the starting one in 13-inch is $17.99. It is a 2560 by 1600 display in the 13-inch. And we'll go over 13, and then we'll go to the 15. The color gamut of P3 is very wide. I think that's larger than traditional sRGB. I think P3. That's an HDR gamut, I believe.
I may have to look back at that. I mean, we can always put in annotations like the actual information.
Right, or we sound like total idiots up here. We don't know what we're talking about. We do. We know what we're talking about most of the time. So when it comes to the specs, it's got an i5 in the base model, all the way up to an i7. 512 gigabytes in 13-inch. Memory is configurable up to 1 terabyte in the 13-inch and up to 16 gigs. DDR3, and then up to DDR4 in the desktop world. So
now, when they say SSD, though, they're talking about a solid state drive, which is actually kind of nice in the fact that when you port information through, it's actually quite fast.
Apparently, it's PCIe based, so it's not SATA based. That is going to be very fast, and being a 1 terabyte SSD, that's big.
Yeah, like if you need like copy information over too, that's really big too, especially for what I do because I have so much files I need to go through.
Right, and when you're doing Photoshop, you just have tons of layers you want to be able to pull from, and it must be much better than the 5400 RPM disc that you used to work off of.
Well, yeah, the one I used to, it's the one with the
The,
spinning.
the little spinnies.
Yeah, then they break easy too. Like I had to get it replaced multiple times.
Well, yeah.
That sucks.
And SSDs physically cannot crash, which is very, very nice. So graphics are the Intel Iris 550 versus on the non-touch bar, the 540. So even the onboard Intel graphics are better on the 550. Sorry, on the touch bar version. When it comes to the ports, they've kept the headphone port unlike the phone.
I don't know why they did that, but
Because they would be murdered in the streets like a Bangladeshi journalist. Oops. Anyway, it's all me. So unlike the old MacBook where we had SD card, HDMI out, MagSafe. What else? What we got? I think it's another USB there. I have one USB here.
yeah, you got another USB like down
USB.
here
I
on
think
this
I've got
side.
2 Thunderbolts or 1 Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt is the 2 smaller ones over here.
Yeah, so
yeah,
2
you got 2
Thunderbolts?
small ones. Yeah.
That's all gone. They've replaced it with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports.
Nice.
So no, not Thunderbolt. Yeah, USB-C ports. So 4 USB-C ports, which even in our world, in the high-end professional world, we don't use a lot of USB-C. Anything that's audio or video, we're mostly sticking analog SDI. In none of my video gear, I've ever messed with USB-C, and I don't know if you have anything you've ever used with USB-C.
I mean, the most I ever use is the USB port, and then
But USB-C, the new
Yeah.
universal one.
I haven't had a use for it yet. But I don't know. We could test it out soon,
Right.
and we can do like a follow-up video about.
Yeah, when we get our hands on, we're waiting for the top of the line one to come out.
Yeah.
So you can charge apparently to any of these USB-C ports, which is nice because you can power in over USB-C. Like the MacBook had the one that came out, which had 1 port I think on it, and all those adapters.
Yeah.
It's also DisplayPort, full backlit keyboard, which is nice.
Backlit. Oh, so you, like when you're at night typing, like, you can actually see where keys are. Yeah.
Yes, for typing at night
Or with the lights off.
or typing after dark. Bluetooth 4.2.
That could be a thing actually.
Typing after dark.
Yeah.
Next
So
episode.
it's like a writer convention, and then like after 12 o'clock, typing after dark is like adult writing.
Speaking of typing, Mavis Beacon teaches typing. Everyone remember her?
She doesn't exist.
She doesn't exist. Mavis Beacon is a lie. We've been lied to. But here's the thing. The FaceTime camera, 720p.
Oh.
It says FaceTime HD camera, but most people think HD. They think 1080p, which is a letdown. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
10
because 1080 isn't that like the standard right now?
1080 is
Yeah.
full HD.
Yeah.
And but you're putting out almost not a 4K. It's better than a 2K screen, and you're going essentially 2 steps down in quality, and consumer quality, not cinema quality. But for FaceTime, it keeps the data low, which is good for FaceTiming. Not good for professional pictures. 720p I think is equivalent to what, 1 megapixel? Because 1080p is 2 megapixel and 4K is 8 megapixels, something like that. Anyway, video support, full native resolution on the display, and out.
5120 by 2880,
Which is
for resolution.
freaking huge.
Yeah, that's isn't that a consumer 5K, or is that an actual 5K?
I think that's consumer 5K, just
Yeah,
because
'cause-
the resolution, it's not cinema 5K, it's consumer 5K.
Yeah, because like even with the next computer we'll be seeing, which is the or are we gonna review it? The Microsoft.
The
Surface
Surface Studio,
Studio.
we're gonna have an episode on that.
Yeah, which was the consumer 4K, but not the actual 4K.
Right.
Yeah.
For most consumer purposes, your own consumer stuff.
Yeah. I mean, works for what it is.
3 mics it can take. It's got 3 microphones in there, 3.5 jack.
Stereos.
10 hours of wireless web time, 30 days of standby time, which is nice. 61 watt USB power. That's pretty cool. 61 watt over USB-C. Electrical stuff, I don't care. The size is very small. It's smaller than, thinner than, almost a MacBook Air now.
I mean, it's 3 pounds overall, which really isn't that heavy at all.
Right, and
Yeah.
so then you get in it a USB-C, a charge cable, a power adapter, and a MacBook Pro. Obviously, you get that in the box. Imagine
I don't
opening
know
that-
why you.
Well, why do you need the MacBook in the box?
Yeah, you're just gonna get the charger and the
So
wire.
here you go. Yeah.
You pay like what, like $1,000 for this? Most expensive cable.
$17.99. Well, I mean, HDMI is expensive. Some HDMI cables, like the one we have in the theater over there, or the one I have in the theater.
With $80, right?
Well, the $80 are like the 3 meter. Sorry, the 1 meter cables.
Yeah.
My cable that goes from my receiver, my 30 foot cable, is like $600, $700.
Wow.
But it's a 4K HDR high data rate cable, and there's no HDMI on this. Removing the SD card though kind of sucks because you need the adapters. We're talking in the world without adapters. Removing the SD card reader as a photographer and videographer, being able to just upload in is for you taking stuff off your camera. I mean, that's more adapters you have to carry, and it,
I mean, for me, I have different ways. Like, I have a plugin I can just connect my camera directly to the.
Need an adapter.
Yeah. So I don't really need to put like SD in, but if I wanted to, it'd be nice to have like a spring, like a port where if I push it in, it'll snap in, and when I push it, it'll just eject it
Right,
immediately.
but
Instead of
this-
having to like actually jostle it. And
well,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
this has the the SD card port, but the new one doesn't. So whatever. So let's look at the 15-inch. So we got the 15-inch specs here. Once it's got the touch bar again with the integrated Touch ID, so you can actually sign in with your button, with your finger, if you're a normal civilized individual, which is nice because passwords are kind of archaic. But in a court of law, they cannot force you to enter your password if you're ever a terrorist. Just letting you know, if you're a terrorist, they cannot force you to put your password into a computer in a court of law. But you can be court order compelled to put your finger on a fingerprint sensor.
Now, if you try to do anything sketchy, you didn't hear that from us.
No, I'm just saying if you have that set up
Yeah.
and you go to court, you have no legal defense. They can force you to put your finger on the computer. So that function, if you're a terrorist, don't worry about the Touch ID sensor. It's a feature you don't need to worry about.
Okay. Noted.
Noted. This is not legal advice. This is only what I've read. So the base price on the 15-inch is $23. Fully loaded, it's $27.99. Comes in silver and a new color, space gray, as far as the MacBook is concerned. 2880 by 1800. It's got top of the line is what we all talk about here. i7 with 8 megabytes of L3 cache, which is very good.
Well, it's only 2.7 gigahertz if you get the.
The base model i7.
Yeah.
But check this out: 512 gigabyte base PCI onboard SSD, configurable up to 2 terabytes SSD in a laptop. That's big.
Yeah.
16 gigs of 2133 DDR3. It's low power DDR3. Still kind of wish it was DDR4, but that's expensive now.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, you're not going to do any like massive video rendering on a laptop anyway. I mean, you can
We're talking about a laptop, not a desktop, which is what's crazy about it.
Yeah. But I mean, you can still do some, editing, and you can get a lot of the work out of the way, and then just move it on to like the desktop for the more fine tuning and stuff that actually requires heavy rendering power. But I mean, it gets the job done if you need it.
Right, it actually does get the job done, and the graphics card in it, ready? Configurable to Radeon Pro 460 with 4 gigabytes of DDR5 memory with graphics switching.
Now my question is this though, Ethan. How's that compare to the NVIDIA series, for example, like the 980?
Well, if you're on Mac, it doesn't compare at all because you don't have a choice.
They can show everything. Very
Let me
good.
put it this way: unlike the 1080, it doesn't blow up. People are complaining about that. We'll talk about that next time. But here's the thing: when we were talking about bringing it over to your other computer, the specs on the iMac, on a fully loaded iMac, which has 5K display,
Oh, this is the 27-inch one, right?
the 27-inch
Yeah,
5K
I actually
iMac.
work on that at work. That's what happened.
All right, so ready for this? It is a configurable up to $395 when the MacBook graphics card
It's a
is a $455.
Okay.
So your more powerful computer is your MacBook Pro now, because they're both mobile chips, and so you really don't have a choice. The new MacBook Pro is more powerful than the old iMac.
Which is impressive. Now, one of the big thing I use my iMac for is for checking up on my print files too, because I need to make sure I have a bigger screen to check.
Well,
for
the
all
5K resolution is phenomenal. That's most of the price you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So when the new iMac comes out, we're going to expect at least a 395 chip. Sorry, no, at least a 460 chip, maybe a 460X if that's out.
Yeah. What's this Intel HD graphics for 540?
That's the built-in graphics on the i7 processor.
Okay.
Waiting for Kirby Lake to come out, which is going to be nice, but I think they're still on Skylake.
Okay.
100% sure. But you're mostly paying for the screen, and the iMac, the 5K is huge on the 27-inch. But I do like the specs on the new MacBook Pro. That the touch bar is going to be really cool. I'm not sure how I feel about carrying all the adapters around.
And you also say you're missing the
The SD card slot goes away.
Yeah, the scan disk.
So that's something I wish they left. But I mean, you're going for more space, and you just get dongles and adapters. But I don't like paying Apple prices. My one complaint about Apple is the the Apple prices. I'm not gonna lie, there.
Mhm.
This was almost a $3,000 laptop.
Yeah.
This was the i7 512, and this is the fully loaded 13-inch,
Mhm.
early 2015.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I do like about the iMac too is the fact that it's an all-in-one, and it's been one of the leaders in all-in-one computers right now. My issue with that though is we're not able to do actual customizations you do with the PC with the tower.
Right.
But I mean, it works for people who don't know what they're doing. So you know, the fact they're able to quality control.
Well,
that is kinda nice,
to
So-
further clarify that, I don't think that's not people that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
One thing Apple that it's good at is by having Apple doesn't sell computers. And what I mean by that is the purpose of Apple is to sell the community and the environment. The same way Starbucks doesn't sell coffee, they're selling Starbucks. It's almost like a rite of initiation when you go in and you finally understand grande, macchiato, skinny calf, whatever. I still don't know it. I don't go to Starbucks that much. But I think that's what Apple does. They're selling a uniformed product that you can go
Well,
to
they've got a standard for like what goes in, so
Right.
you know what you're getting is gonna be quality product.
the same way, like with the coffee analogy, is a macchiato is prepared at every single Starbucks the exact same way, versus if you said a macchiato at some other places, it might not be the exact same thing. So since every product is the exact same and very uniform, tech support's phenomenally easy versus calling what camera, what computer do you have, what specs do you have, what manufacturer, what's your model number. With Apple, it's just like, what do you have? I've got a MacBook Pro. What year? Here it is. And it's the community can help you. Unlike
It's
if you-
better organized.
yes, the
Yeah,
community
yeah.
is much better, and that is what Apple's selling. Apple's selling that ecosystem, which is good.
Yeah,
I
definitely need that, especially like if you're in a workplace, like you don't have time to lose on trying to troubleshoot everything. So getting that immediate feedback is super important.
That is nice, and the
Saves
community
money.
help is always good. As far as video editing,
Or saves time is money.
it does. And as far as the video editing side is concerned, you do have access to the software in the Apple. You have Final Cut Pro X. You have Logic if you're music editing. I'm switching to Final Cut Pro from Adobe because I don't like paying freaking $600 a year for that, $50 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, the reoccurring payment stuff that you see going on right now with a lot of different companies, I mean, over time it just adds up. And you know, if you're with the type of money you're making right now, like most people are probably making, I mean, they're not gonna have enough for like other living expenses plus the software you need, you know, to make a living on its
No,
own, too.
it's the buy once, cry once philosophy, which is
Yeah.
nice. But there's no Photoshop equivalent, so I can leave Adobe, he can't. See, my photo editing
Or I mean, I can always go to GIMP for instead of Photoshop, but you know how that's
GIMP has
gonna
the learning curve of Mount Everest. It is horrible.
come. Yeah.
All right, so we got about minute 50 left, so we're gonna wrap this up. What's the one thing you'd like to see that you wish they had put in this computer? And then I'll answer the same thing. When you ask me a question, I'll ask you a question. My question to you is, as a graphic designer, what's something you wish they had put into this computer, or spec app, an app they need to make, or what do you need to see or would like to see?
Well, the thing is, I use mainly Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign. So for what I really need, I mean, the MacBook probably covers most of it. I mean, if I'm doing video editing, there's probably still a lot more to be desired for like VRAM because I need that for rendering if we're doing any editing like that. But in terms of graphic design, it has most of it. I just wish the screen's much bigger because it'd be nice for reviewing print files. But besides that, I mean, I'm pretty satisfied.
All right, so
Yeah.
what question do you have for me?
This one will be for you as a video. Same question, but for
As
you
a
as a
video
video
guy?
editor. Yeah, as a video guy.
Same question. Well, I'd like to see a non-mobile graphics chip. Honestly, I can't do that on a laptop. The bigger screen always helps because when you watch a movie on a screen, you have the full screen. But when you're doing editing, you have to have you've got the footage up there, which is the kind of the project timeline footage. You have the source footage file, and then you've got your timeline on the bottom, which I can finally move down here with the Touch ID. The problem is, though, you just don't have the screen real estate. I don't know if 15 inches is going to be enough.
Yeah.
But being able to USB-C out is nice. I would like to see a true 4K display. Because that way, I shoot in 4K and I edit down to 1080p for most of my delivered projects. We're shooting this in 4K, so I can clip between faces and stuff. Of having a 4K display is really nice because that means when I have my 1080p quadrant where my source footage is, my project footage is, it gives me access to see that essentially at full produced resolution right then and there. So not a 4K Retina display is kind of what I would like to see in the next version.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. I'm Ethan Merbaum. This is
Jeff, you.
Jeff Yu, and this is Design Tech, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.